Hi, boys and girls. Today in Reader's Workshop, we're going to read another story. It's called Elizabethy's School. Maybe you recognize a familiar theme. That means that this story and the story that we read the last time in Reader's Workshop are about the same topics. Can you think about what that might be? If you said school, you're right, and it's even going to be about the first day of school. The character in this story is named Elizabeth. She lives in a place called Tanzania, and that's in Africa. We live in the United States, in the state of Indiana. Africa is very far away from our house, so maybe you'll notice some differences between her school and our school. In this story, the main character realizes that there is no place like her home, but she also realizes that school is an important place. So you can be thinking about that as we share the story together. And then also the other thing that I want you to be thinking about is last time we shared a story together, we talked about the characters and the setting. And so today I'd like you to also think about that, because in our offline activity, you're going to be doing a project where you're going to have to know the character and the setting of the story. Okay? So in this story, Elizabethy's School, the author is Stephanie Stuvig Bodine, and the illustrator, the person who does those pictures, is Christy Hale. Remember, we're enjoying the story together, but we're also listening to see who the characters and the setting are. Here's the title page. That's a page that tells just the name of the story again. It was Elizabethy's first day of school. She tried to sit still while Mama braided her hair, but she was so excited that she had to fidget a little. Maybe you felt this way. In our last story, the main character was nervous about school. This character is excited or happy about the first day of school. Mama finished and Elizabethy jumped up. She twirled around and around in her new school uniform. She bent down to feel the smooth surface of her shiny new shoes. No more bare feet, Elizabeth smiled. School must surely be a special place. Now, in this page, they talk about her uniform. And boys and girls, at our school, we don't wear uniforms. Uniforms are when the students in the school wear the same thing. Their uniform. Uniform means the same. You might have seen other people in our town or know of a friend or someone in your family where they wear maybe blue pants or black pants. Everybody, or the girls, wear skirts and they all wear the same color skirt and the same color shirt. That's called a uniform. It was still too early to leave for school, so Elizabeth wanted to play with her cat, Moshi. Elizabeth held a string for Moshi to chase like she did every day, but this time Moshi didn't want to play. I wonder why she doesn't want to play. Finally, it was time to go. Elizabeth waved goodbye to Moshi. She hugged her rock doll Eva and her baby sister. She held her little brother Obadiah and he gave her a sloppy kiss. Then Mama patted Elizabeth on the head and told her older sister Pendo to be good as they headed out the door. At first, Elizabeth walked very fast, but she slowed down as they neared the school. Pendo took Elizabeth's hand and led her into the schoolyard. There were boys and girls everywhere, laughing and yelling and singing. All the noise made Elizabeth feel shy. She looked back the way they had come and wished she had stayed home. But then Elizabeth's friend Holly grabbed her hand and led her to a group of girls kneeling on the ground. They were playing Makora, a game with rocks. Elizabeth smiled. She liked to play with rocks. Here's that page. No, here's this one. Elizabeth watched as Rahali dug a small hole and filled it with stones, and then Rahali threw a rock into the air and with the same hand picked out a stone from the hole. Again, with the same hand, she caught the rock before it hit the ground. The next time she picked out 2 stones and then 3. Elizabeth had started to dig a hole and then a hole when the teacher rang the bell. Elizabeth filed inside with the others. She sat on a bench near the front. The teacher began telling all the things that they would do, but Elizabeth had trouble paying attention. She wondered if Flora missed playing with her or if Mama needed her to help clean the rice. The other children started to copy the letters the teacher had written on the blackboard. Elizabeth started to copy them too, but she couldn't help wondering if Obadiah wanted her to take him for a walk or if Eva was feeling lonely, sitting in the corner by herself at home. Elizabeth wondered if they missed her. She was certainly missing them. After their lessons, the children all went outside. Some of the older boys played drums while the girls danced. Elizabeth didn't know the dance, but one of the older girls took her hand and showed her what to do. Elizabeth liked it so much she didn't want to stop when it was time to go inside. Back in the schoolroom, the teacher taught Elizabeth and the other young children how to count to 5. Moja, Niblili, Tatu, Ne, Tano. After a few times, Elizabeth could say all the words on her own. Later, the teacher read a story, and after that, school was over. Elizabeth and her classroom stayed to work in the school's garden. Elizabeth helped pick onions and tomatoes. That's kind of cool. They have a garden at their school. On the walk home, Elizabeth's new shoes started to hurt her feet, so she took them off. The warm dirt felt wonderful on the bottom of her feet. At home, Elizabeth was so glad to see everyone. She hugged them all. She changed into her old clothes, which Mama had washed and dried. They were warm from the sun and felt much softer against her skin. Then the stiff new clothes. Now, that new word, stiff, just means that it's not flexible. So sometimes when you get new clothes, they're not as soft and bend on your skin like some nice pair of old jeans. Elizabeth helped with the rest of the afternoon chores, played with Eva and Obadiah, and helped Mama give Flora a bath. Elizabeth was so happy to be home. She decided she didn't want to go back to school. Elizabeth went to find her cat. She had looked almost everywhere for her, Moshi. And when Mama finally called for her, Elizabeth ran into the house. Mama was on her knees by Elizabeth's bed, smiling, and Obadiah was jumping up and down. I wonder what's happening. Elizabeth peeked under the bed. Moshi was curled up sleeping, but she wasn't alone. Tucked in beside her were several tiny kittens. Elizabeth knew better than to disturb them, but just then she thought of something. She pointed at each kitten and said, Moja, Mipili, Tatu, Ne, Tano. Mama was surprised and hugged her. Elizabeth knew how to count. Remember, earlier in the story, she learned how to count to 5, and now she counted all the kittens. That night, Elizabeth counted her kittens for Baba and wrote some letters in the dirt to show what she had learned at school. Mama and Baba were very proud. Pendo and Elizabeth danced, and they all laughed when Obadiah tried to copy them. Elizabeth started to show Mama how to play Machara, but was surprised when Mama was already very good at it. They played until it was time to go to sleep. How do you think the mom knew how to play that game? Maybe she played that game when she was little. Elizabeth climbed into bed and held Eva close. She looked at her pretty school clothes hanging neatly by the doorway. She thought about how good it felt to show Mama and Baba the new things she had learned. Elizabeth shut her eyes and listened to Moshe's steady purring as a kitten mewed every now and then. Elizabeth decided she would give school another try, but home was surely the best place to be. Let's talk a little bit about our story. I hope you liked that story about school, and maybe you made some connections. Maybe this story reminded you about another story that you've heard, or maybe something that's happened to you. That's called a text-to-self connection. So you could share that with someone in your family or at home when we're done with the video. So let's think about this. How do you think Elizabeth's feelings changed about school throughout the day? In the beginning, think about how she was feeling about being in school. She was excited to have her hair, and her hair was getting done, and she was really fidgety, and she was feeling really proud in her uniform. And then when she was back in class, she started to think a little bit about her family. And then, let's look back at that picture. What do you think? Do you remember she's thinking about her family and if they're missing her? She's probably feeling a little sad here. But she has some more fun. She learns how to count. She practices her letters. She helps in the garden. And then at the end of the story, she says, home is the best place to be, but she decides to give school another chance. So, what do you think? She probably thinks school's an okay place to be. And most people feel that way. So, before we started the story, I asked you to think about who the characters were in the story and who the setting was. So, turn and tell someone close to you. If you have an adult or a sibling, you can tell them who the characters were in the story. And I'll wait for you to do that. Okay, turn back up here. If you said Elizabeth, her brothers, her sisters, her mom, Baba, her teacher, her classmates, those are all characters in the story. The cat. And the setting is where the story takes place, where everything's happening. And just like our other story, there's 2 settings. Can you name them? I'll give you a second to do that. The first one is her house. And the second one is her school. Okay, I hope you enjoyed our second interactive reading lesson, and I look forward to showing you your task for your offline lesson. Bye. See you soon.